Hey, buddy.
Hey Rob, what's going on, man?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Really good, really good. I see you. I mean, the last time we talked or we met actually was at my house in 2008. That you know, 15 plus years ago. You know,
Yeah, it's crazy. I was thinking about that right before I came on, and I was like, I remember that was 2008, I think, wasn't it, when I
right?
came
Yes,
over?
yes, yes.
But
A little,
because it was right before, I think it was before Danger show,
right?
if I
Yes,
remember right. Yeah,
yes, you
yeah.
are definitely. You know how excited you were to see Danger, Danger, and Ted Poley. You
Oh,
know.
yeah. Well, I still am. I love those guys. It's great. But yeah, man, it's a long time. But we're both still here, so that's good.
Definitely, definitely. So tell me what's going on with Pride and Joy Classics re-releasing your two discs.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're actually currently finishing off our fifth album at the minute. So
Right,
we're really happy with that. That's going to be we're actually going to be finishing the whole thing off next week, and then that's going to be coming out in November. So we're actually on album five. But we signed with the we've been on a few different labels. So our last album, our fourth album, In at the Deep End, was the first one on Pride and Joy. So we signed with Pride and Joy for the last album, and they've been fantastic. So we've signed with them again for the new album, Bite the Bullet, which is coming out at the end of the year. And yeah, they basically just got in touch a couple of months ago and said that they really wanted to reissue the first two albums
right,
because basically they're really hard to find physical copies of nowadays, and we're quite lucky in the fact that um, we have kind of like an older fan base, so it's still the fans that actually like to buy physical product.
right,
Obviously you can stream everything, everything's on Spotify and iTunes, you name it, but we're very old school in that we like people to have the physical thing, and the first two albums have been out of print for a long time. So we kind of did a very short run. We just kind of reissued them ourselves a couple of years ago, but it was only really to sell at shows and stuff like that.
right.
So yeah, the label Pride and Joy just said, let's re-release the first two albums because apparently there's a lot of demand for them, and unless you're going on eBay for like and they're like 200 quid on eBay and stuff like that. So yeah, they're both coming out on this coming Friday, which is May 30th. They both got two bonus tracks on, the Japanese bonus track, and there was also kind of a new studio track on each one. So
Right.
there's technically two extra tracks, compared to the initial release. And also later on in the year, they're actually going to be released on vinyl as well for the first time as well,
Cool.
which we're really excited about because our third album came out on vinyl. The new one's coming out on vinyl as well, but we're keen to get the first two out on vinyl too, and that's happening. I think at the end, I think November time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And these CDs are only going to be limited to 500 too, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that makes them even more kind of, I guess collector's items. And so if you want one, be quick because we were always, we're always getting messages from people asking, where they can get them and stuff like that. So finally, we can, direct them to the record label website and people can get hold of them. So yeah, they seem to be quite sought after. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Now the new album that comes out November too.
Yeah, yeah. So
Cool.
that's November 21st.
Uh,
Like I said, we're just finishing it off. We're finishing things off in the studio next week. Then it goes to mix.
uh,
Obviously, there's always a little bit of a delay between handing in the album and the album release. But we're really excited to get that one out in November. And yeah, it's I know every single band says the same thing that this is our best album, but you know. We think it is, so
Uh-huh.
which I guess it should be because if you're putting out an album and you're thinking your previous album was better, then there's something wrong, really. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely. Definitely. Can you tell me anything about the album?
yeah. I mean, we kind of we don't like do any we don't make any drastic changes in what we do because we have a really a nice fan base, a
Right.
nice big fan base, all around the world that really like what we do, and we're very much what you see is what you get. It's not trying to be anything else. It's just pure late 80s American hair metal, basically. That's what it is. That's what it's all based on. All the bands, you mentioned Danger Danger. I mean, we
Right.
get compared to Danger Danger in every single album and live review. I think in the last 8 years, I don't think I've seen a single review that doesn't compare us to Danger Danger. So it's that kind of stuff, and we always kind of add a few little new ingredients with each album, and we try a couple of little different things here and there, but it's pretty much we enjoy what we do and our fans enjoy it. So there's no real reason to make any drastic changes, really. I mean, it's worked for the last four albums, so I don't see why it won't work for this one. But we're really happy with how it's sounding at the minute. So yeah, we've got a guy called Chris Laney who's going to be mixing the album again, who I'm sure you're aware of,
Yeah, he's
Brian.
a good friend.
Yeah, he's a great guy, a great guy. So
Uh-huh.
he mixed our last album, in at the deep end. So we were so happy with that one that he's about to start mixing it. Hopefully the end of next week he's going to start work on it.
Cool, 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 cool. Now, how many tracks you expecting on this album?
We're kind of going back old school. We're doing 10,
Uh-huh.
especially because with this coming out on vinyl as well, we're doing the classic, 5 songs on each side, and it's quite cool because that's kind of where I come from, the vinyl days and the cassette days, so even kind of working at the track or the track listing, as in, okay, which song's going to start off side two and all that cool stuff. So, yeah, it's going to be 10 tracks for the regular release, and then there'll be a Japanese bonus track for obviously the Japan release.
Cool, cool. You said it's probably going to come out on vinyl. Is that going to be just black vinyl or it's going to be color vinyl? Or we
It's
have
gonna
decided?
be it's gonna be colored vinyl. I can't
Uh-huh.
give too much away because we've just approved the artwork, and the artwork
Uh-huh.
looks pretty cool, and it's kind of in keeping. We've kind of have a weird thing where we kind of have like a color scheme with each album,
Right, yeah.
and again, it kind of goes back to kind of how old school we are in that, an album's not just music, it's a piece of product, and it's
Right.
something to look at, and we spend a lot of time working on, you know, how things look and stuff like that. Um, so each album's kind of like the first album was purple, so that and then they there goes a neighborhood had like a pink cover, and then the third one was kind of like a red and black thing, and then the last one was a blue.
Uh-huh.
So we got another we're changing the color scheme up again, and basically the vinyl's going to be in keeping with that. So it will be colored vinyl, yeah.
Cool, cool. I don't know how you nailed down Chris Laney. The guy has no time, you
I
know?
know, I know.
You
Well,
know?
I wanted to work with Chris for such a long time because I've always been a fan of his stuff going way back to
Mhm.
I remember do you remember the Stevie James album,
Yes. Hmm.
My
Yep.
Private Hell? And
Uh-huh.
I love that. I mean, that's, we're getting on to, like getting up at almost like, I don't know, 17, 18 years ago, whatever. I love that album, and I loved the Zan Clan album, and going way back.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously Chris has done a million things since then, but I always liked how I just liked how his album sounded. Anything that he has his name on it, I've always really enjoyed, and I just knew that he would be perfect for Midnite City. So yeah, I mean, he's a great guy, and we actually we 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 met him, we met him briefly at a festival we played in Germany a couple of years ago when we first got talking to him about mixing the album. Um, which obviously he did on the last album. And then it was great. We actually met him again and got to hang out with him on the Monster Rock cruise.
Right.
Because obviously Midnite City played there in March, and he was there with Pretty Mates.
Hmm.
So yeah, he came out to see our gig, and you know we hung out quite a bit on the cruise, and he's a great guy, and he's actually really excited to be. He absolutely loves our band. You know, he's just kind of like so old school, and you know I get to use all my old '80s kind of sounds on your albums, where a lot of bands don't like that, and we're like, no,
Right.
no, like it's all about the '80s, you know. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a great guy, really, really cool guy, and a very, very talented guy, and we're you know, we can't wait to hear what he comes up with.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do a great job because he did probably my favorite album back in the day with Crash Diet, Rest in Sleaze. And
Yeah,
that sound quality is amazing what he gets out of that stuff, you know?
yeah, yeah. He's amazing. Yeah, so yeah, our album's in safe hands, I think.
Cool. So how's Peter Newdeck doing?
Yeah, he's doing all right. Yeah, I mean, we kind of parted company with him on
Right.
we did the first three albums with him, and then we toured on the Itchy Can't Scratch album. And then when we started working on the last album in the deep end, it was just kind of we were just kind of going in sort of different directions really. And he's a busy guy as well. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all busy, but he was especially busy, and it was kind of like becoming a thing where he didn't have enough time to put in to what we needed to be doing, you know. And Midnight City's we all do lots of other things, but Midnight City's got to be the number one priority for everybody. And it kind of he started to want to maybe do some other things. So, but yeah, he's cool. I mean, there was no big fallout or anything. It
Uh-huh.
was just like a mutual, well, yeah, it's probably best if you know, we both do our own things. So we got a new guy in a drummer called Ryan Briggs, who's absolutely amazing, great drummer. And yeah, and everybody's happy. You know, Pete's doing a million things as always, mixing albums and doing all kinds of stuff. But yeah, he's doing good.
Cool, cool. So do you remember your first concert you went to?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So it was that my mom actually actually it's great. It's really nice to think about this because my mum unfortunately passed away a couple of months ago, but she actually took me to my first show when I was 11, and she took
Mhm.
me to see the band Europe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so they were on their Out of This World tour, so that was kind of like my favorite Europe album. So the one after the Final Countdown. And yeah, she took me to went to a venue in Manchester called the Manchester Apollo, kind of like a almost like a sort of like a mini version of the Hammersmith
Right.
Apollo sort of thing. And yeah, that was it. That was the first show, March '89. So yeah, that was and that was it really. That was one of those life-changing sort of moments, you know, when they came on stage, and it was like, whoa, that was it. That's the light bulb went off, and that's what I, you know, like a million other guys, you know, there's always that one, you know,
Right.
going to see Kiss or whatever,
Yeah.
that one concert that starts it, and that was it for me. So yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. You remember your first record you got?
Also Europe. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's
So
cool.
yeah, yeah,
They're a
but
great band.
yeah, a little bit before that. So
Yeah.
so before that I kind of like my sister was um she was I liked a lot of kind of pop stuff. I still listen to a lot of pop music, but I was quite a big Duran fan when I was a
Right. Yeah, me too.
real little kid. So when I
Mhm.
was like 6, 7 years old. But then the Final Countdown was a massive hit over here. It was like a number one single over here
Right.
in '86. So I would have been yeah, 9 years old.
Right.
So I went out and bought the cassette, the album. So it was yeah, first album and first concert as well. So and they were great, you know,
Yeah.
brilliant. They still are great, you know, but especially back then I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah. Actually, I was reading that their new album is going to be like like a flashback to the older days. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, I heard that too. And I'm really hoping that is the case because I loved all the 80s stuff. I thought it was great, so fingers crossed.
Uh, Back in the 80s, tell me a couple shows other than Europe that you went to see.
Well, I was kind of sort of a weird age really because when I was getting into all
Right,
that stuff was sort of dying out. So, like I said, in 89, I was 11, just about, it was just before my 12th birthday when I went to see Europe. So after that, they were kind of after Europe, it was kind of really early 90s shows. So
right,
it would be and again, in the UK, it was nothing like it was in the States where you had MTV and you had all those. But I mean, the only bands that really broke through in the UK were the really big bands. So, Bon
right,
Jovi and Guns N' Roses, and so all the bands that I later went on to absolutely love. All the kind of like the B and C level hair metal bands never really even broke out in the UK. So, and a lot of them didn't tour over here, you know, a lot. Um, well, they did, but they were kind of doing more like club shows, and
right. Yeah.
when you're little, obviously you can't get into clubs, so I would have to go to arena shows. So,
Uh,
um, went to see Bon Jovi a few times, Keep the Faith tour. I went to see Poison on the Native Tongue tour, which was kind of a huge Poison fan. Who else? Europe, Kiss. Oh God, Heart. All those kind of bands.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Motley Crue. And then when I finally sort of got to an age where I could start sneaking into nightclubs, then
Right.
I would go and see whoever, and I would go and see some of those bands, like, Bullet Boys or Winger or whoever, and that's when I was able to go and see all those other bands when I was kind of probably about 16 and probably 2 years younger than I should have been going to gigs. But, I had long hair and stuff, so I could always kind of sneak in, and I kind of looked a little bit older. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Cool. It's just pretty wild that Duran Duran's touring. All I could think of is that Rio song and stuff like that, and then like today's day, they're still playing live.
Oh yeah, and they're still great. I went
Uh-huh.
to see him a couple of years ago. They're still great, and they still what I love about that stuff is they obviously play some new stuff,
Right.
but they play all the hits, all the 80s stuff. It's not like kind of like Europe, kind of like they kind of steer away a little bit
Yeah.
from their 80s stuff, which I don't really think all that is that cool really, but
Right.
Duran Duran's just still all about, all those massive songs from the 80s, and they still sound great, and they're brilliant. Yeah, really cool.
Cool, cool, cool. Is there any artist that you got to play with that you were so excited? Don't say Ted Poley.
Well,
He,
Ted's a really good friend of ours, and
yeah, he's a
he's
great guy.
actually, yeah, he's a really big supporter of Midnite City. He's been great with us. I mean, I did an acoustic tour with Ted
Uh-huh.
a couple of years ago. Me and him, I was his support act. We went all over the UK together, and had an absolute such a good time. It was great. And then we were actually with him. We played in Brazil right after the Monsters of Rock cruise. We played. It was Midnite City, Ted Poley, and Ches Kane.
Uh-huh.
We went to Sao Paulo, and he was just hanging out with us all day around the pool, and he got his he got his acoustic guitar out, and he's like, but yeah, I mean, but having said that, Ted, with massive influence, huge influence on me as a singer, frontman, all the rest of it, and he knows that. I've told him a million times, and he's a great guy. But I mean, I've been lucky to in not just this band, but all my previous bands, Tiger Tails and
Right.
TCC, and all those other bands I played in. I pretty much got to play with virtually all of my favorite bands and heroes.
Uh-huh.
Really, there's very few that I haven't done. I think the one that really got me was when I was in Tiger Tails. We did the Kiss cruise.
Uh-huh. Cool.
back in it's quite a while ago. It was 2014, so it's well over 10 years ago. But I actually got to meet Paul and Gene, which for
Right.
me was just like Kiss is like my all-time favorite band.
Mhm.
So I kind of like was reduced to like a little a little 12-year-old girl.
Right.
And I didn't know Paul had his makeup on and stuff, and I just kind of I can't remember what I said to him, but it was probably something really embarrassing. I can't remember, but and I did actually chat to him for a little bit, and then I kind of walked away, and I was just like, I think one of my friends said, you've just been chatting to Paul Stanley, and it was just like, whoa. And
Right.
that's, and I'm still, like the biggest music fan. So I still get excited by all that stuff, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's great. So, but that was a big one for me. It really, really was.
Cool, cool. With Ted Poley, I mean, I can't congratulate that guy enough. He actually does shows where he'll come to your house, you know, like special like
Yeah, yeah.
backyard parties, or you got a birthday party and your parents paid for it, and Ted comes to the house. That got to be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean it's great. He does that quite a lot, and I think it's a great idea. I mean, if I when I was like 15, I mean, if I would have lost my mind. If like he'd come round to my mum's backyard with his acoustic guitar, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But I know Mike Tramp does that as well
Oh
quite a
yeah.
bit as well.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. He's
Yeah,
smashed it.
he's killing it again. Yeah, yeah, another great guy. Yeah.
Cool, cool. So do you have anything else coming up you like to talk about?
Yeah, well, we've got God, there's all kinds of stuff happening. We've actually we're playing with Ted again. We can't seem to get away from Ted these days, but in a good way.
Uh-huh.
We're playing. He's coming over to play a festival called Tower of Fire in June, the end of
Uh-huh.
June. So it's going to be us and Ted and a couple of other bands, which actually is our next show. And then we have a bit of time off because obviously then we're gearing up for the album coming out in November. And then the week after the album comes out, we've got a UK tour booked for the week after that. And we're bringing actually do you remember the band Wild Street from
Yes, yes.
yeah,
They've
well
been
they're
to my
coming
house too.
yeah, Eric,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, weird. It's a small world. So they're coming over and they're touring with us,
Uh-huh.
which is going to be really cool. It's something that me and Eric have kind of like been chatting about doing for quite a while. Um, and we kind of chatted about it a little bit before, and then we obviously got to hang out together on the Monster Rock cruise because Wall Street were there as well. So we talked a little bit more about it then. And yeah, so they're coming over and we're doing it's not a long tour, we're just doing like five nights,
Mhm.
consecutive nights, and that kicks off I think it's like November 26th, I think it is. And then we're looking into doing all kinds of stuff next year. So we're just in the planning stages for next year at the minute. But yeah, it's all exciting stuff, mate. And obviously, like I said, the reissues coming out this week for the first two albums, and yeah, we're just gonna keep it all rolling, mate.
Cool, cool. You have any merchandise you like to talk about and where people could pick it up?
Oh yeah, yeah. We got lots of merchandise. So if you go to just go to our website, which is just midnitecity.com. Um, and we've got all kinds of, we've got about 20 odd different t-shirt designs, and you can get everything, hoodies,
Mhm.
baseball caps, you name it, we've got it. So it's kind of almost as much merch as Kiss, but not quite to that extreme.
Cool,
But
cool.
yeah, just go to midnitecity.com. It's all there, and yeah, go and have a look.
Wow. You think you guys are going to be coming to the United States maybe next year?
Oh, you know what? I would love to. I mean, it was great for us to get to America, in March to do the cruise, because that's something that we've wanted to do for a long time, especially for like us. I don't think there's a band more suited to be on that cruise than us. So we was so excited when we got off the cruise and we got to do actually got to play three shows while we were on there and went down incredibly well. And there's definitely a market for us over there. It's really expensive, kind of.
Right,
And I think the thing is as well with America, it's such a huge, I know because obviously living over there, just
right,
how huge a country it is compared to, the UK, which
right.
it's tiny,
Yeah,
in comparison. So logistically, it's a bit of a tricky one. So I think what we would have to do really would be to maybe get maybe a festival or a couple of festivals and then tie some shows in around it.
right,
But it's certainly something that we're going to be looking into doing because we always get asked when we're going to actually tour America. So we'll have to see what happens. I mean, that might be something we will be, starting to look at early next year and see if we can. I mean, we'd love to get on the M3 festival. I think would be
right,
great
yeah.
for us. So that's something that we could do with maybe kind of finding a way into that, and then we could maybe branch out from there, I guess.
Cool, cool. Is there any newer bands you could recommend to me to check out that you like?
Oh man, I'm just kind of not really. I don't know about you. I don't know what it is because I'm like I love listening to music. I listen to music all the time, and it's not like I've got to an age where I'm like everything else sucks unless it came out in 1988, which in
Right.
my opinion it kind of does. But uh,
Uh,
I listen to a lot of new stuff. But I don't really hear that many good songs.
I understand. Yeah.
I hear a lot of bands doing the sound and doing the look, and especially a lot of those Scandinavian bands. Obviously, not going to
Right.
mention any names, but
Uh,
they kind of put out an album, and you kind of listen, and it's like, yeah, there's maybe like one really good song on it, and
right. Yeah.
and I'm used to, when we were buying albums, you
Right.
know, not all the albums, but most albums would have, a good six or seven. There might be a couple of weaker tracks, but you never buy an album and it just have one great
Right.
song on it. And I find that a lot with new stuff. I don't know, but I also have a very sort of like I really like catchy
Hmm.
poppy rock music and there's not a lot of that stuff around really at the minute.
Right.
I quite like some of the synthwave stuff,
Uh,
that's kind of there's some, kind of some better kind of songwriting, I think, in that style of music, but there's not anybody that I can really think of.
right.
I don't
Yeah.
know, unless I'm thinking. I mean, I don't know. I might be missing out on some great bands, but feel
Yeah.
free if anybody wants to send me some stuff, I'll always give it a listen. But yeah, for that reason, I'm kind of old school. I'm just listening to my old albums from back in the day, really.
Cool, cool. How's the music scene by you?
It's again it's kind of tricky for us in the UK, and we've just kind of had to um kind of create our own scene really because
Right.
um in the UK there's so many bands, there's a ridiculous amount of bands, and it's kind of an underground scene, but bands are playing every night of the week. There's probably too many bands really, and there's so many bands. But a big thing in the UK is it kind of goes under this kind of banner. It's called the new wave of classic rock,
Uh-huh.
and it tends to be bands that are more sort of more kind of British sounding, more
Right.
bluesy,
Hmm.
kind of more of that kind of like White Snake Thunder type sound.
Right.
Uh, and we don't sound anything like that. And we are the only band in the UK doing, this kind of
Right.
music with a keyboard player and the sound and the style, the kind of the American sound and the image and everything else.
Right.
We're the only ones doing it. So we tend to just kind of when we play festivals and stuff, we always kind of stand out from a lot of those bands because we don't really sound anything like the other bands that are on the festival sort of thing. But at the same time, it's quite cool because then we have our own scene and we have our own group of fans and we just go out and headline our own tours and people come to every single show. So it's kind of it would be cool in one respect if there was a few more bands like us. So there was maybe a big a slightly bigger scene,
Right.
but at the same time, it's kind of quite cool because we're the only ones doing it. So we're kind of like flying the flag for. I mean,
Well,
you go to Sweden,
right.
everyone's doing
Yeah.
it. But like we are like if you ask anybody about this style of music and you mention the UK, they're going to mention Midnight City because we're kind of the only ones. So in a way, it's quite cool to be
Yeah.
honest as well. So yeah.
And what's your feelings on meet and greets? Fans got to pay.
Oh, I mean that's just ridiculous. I mean that should never be allowed. I don't care how big the band is. I mean that should never be allowed. I think it's disgusting, to be honest with you, paying and some of the bands. I mean, I think it's bad enough, you having to pay a ridiculous amount of money to meet, the big guys,
Right.
but some of the band. I mean, again, I'm not going to mention any names, but I mean, some of the like D and E level hair metal bands that are
Right.
charging,
Yeah.
and they're playing. In reality, they're playing a bar in front of 20 people,
Right. Yeah.
and you don't have to, you meet them as they walk through the front door. You know what I mean? And it's the same when they come over here. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm one of those 20 people in the audience. That any of those bands come over, I'm there. But you look around, and there's nobody coming to watch it. So how
Right.
they
Yeah.
can even charge that is just, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it should never ever. I mean, we after every single show we ever do, it doesn't matter where we are, where we've got to be the next day. As soon as a gig's done, 5 minutes to cool off, and then we talk to everybody and sign every single album or whatever they want until everybody goes, and that's every single night. We never don't do that, and yeah, I just think it's all wrong. Even the big bands, I don't agree with the big bands doing it either, but especially the smaller bands, it's kind of a little bit ridiculous, really.
Cool. Cool. Are you happy the way your music career is turning out?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all. I mean, I've been doing this for such a long time now. It's starting out. Like I said earlier, I was born in a really weird kind of almost like the worst possible time for
Right.
kind of the music that I loved. So if you think about it, when I was 15, it was 1992.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Hmm.
when I was like, when I was first proper, I mean, I started playing in little bands when I was like 13, 14. But when I was in my first kind of proper band,
Right.
when I was 17 and I was going out and playing gigs, it was 1994.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm still listening to Danger, Warrant, and Poison, White Lion, and you name all those bands, and it's 1994. No one's interested in it. And it kind of went through this really weird time, especially in the early 2000s as well, where it was just kind of like, well, I'm gonna have to kind of figure out a way of, updating what I do, and trying to kind of like a lot of those bands did back in the day, and try and kind of change style a little bit so I can at least have some sort of career, which I did for many years in my band TCC, and then moved to the States. Obviously, did the Sons of America thing for a while, and then yeah, and then everything kind of like started coming around a little bit. Then after I came back from the States, I mean, it wasn't long after that I joined Tiger Tails, and then slowly but surely, I mean, Midnight City's been around 8 years now. But when we started in 2017. I noticed that this kind of music, even though, it'll never be, mainstream again, but it's
Right.
kind of like people like it again,
Yeah.
and thanks to, loads of things like the Motley Crue Netflix thing, and then the Nothing But a Good Time documentary, and
Right.
um it seems to be even, you watch TV and even like on TV commercials, there's like 80s rock songs. It's
Yeah.
kind of almost become kind of cool again. So it's kind of like the trend kind of, I honestly would be, I'd have loved to have been doing the Midnight City thing when I was like 24 years old.
Right.
but you couldn't do that when I was that age. It was you'd have just got laughed off the face of the earth for doing that kind of music back then in 2002 or whatever.
Right.
So in a way, it's cool that it kind of came back around, and I at least I'm kind of riding the wave a little bit with it now. So yeah. So I mean, like I said, I'd love to have been born, maybe 10 years earlier, and things probably would have been different. But at the same time, I've got no complaints. We've, especially Midnight City. I mean, we've done so much in 8 years. I got the dream come true of, we toured Japan twice and stuff like that, and so many bucket list things that I've ticked. So got no complaints really.
Well, Rob, it was great talking to you and catching up after 20 years. Uh,
Yeah, man. And next time when I'm in the States, I'm actually hoping to come back to America next year. I'm on holiday, and I'm gonna hit up the East Coast. So you never know, I might be coming around for dinner.
cool, cool, cool. Well, thanks a lot for the
All right.
chat. Would you like to say anything to fans out there?
No, well, thanks. First of all, just thank you as always for supporting Midnight City. I know Brian, you've been a big supporter of my music for a long time. Like I said,
Okay.
we go way back, and I really, really appreciate it. And to everybody at RockEyez for checking the band out. And like I said, lots of new stuff coming up later on this year. So yeah, just look out for Midnight City.
Cool, cool. Thanks a lot, Rob. Talk to you
All
later.
right, buddy. Yeah,
Bye
see you
bye.
soon, man. Bye bye, mate. Bye.